Good evening. Today we're going to talk about The American Farmer by Billie Joe Byerly. When we talk about the American farmer, we're going to talk about what is the subsidy and how it has helped the American farming industry, or maybe possibly hurt it over the last 60 years. So we're going to talk about what is a subsidy to start this out. According to the International Business Law and Its Environment by Schaefer, Augusty, and Doge, a subsidy is a CSM agreement as a financial contribution including any form of income or price support by a government that confers a benefit on a specific domestic enterprise or industry. So looking at this, CSM is the subsidies contravailing measures, and this agreement makes it possible for the government to come in and help out different industries, businesses, or markets that they feel it need help or that the American public needs or the United States needs, but this industry may possibly need help on finishing something. When I was reading this and looking at it even closer, it's a lot like almost like a grant that we give students. We don't think twice about giving students some grants because we know that if they finish college and we give them some grant money and they have less student loans, they'll get a job and they'll start paying taxes, and basically the United States will definitely recoup that because they'll be making a higher tax bracket, because most college graduates make a higher tax bracket than non-graduates. So that's kind of how I look at this subsidy, is that the United States needs some type of income or needs the farmer's product. And so if they offer them some size of subsidy, it's an incentive to stay into farming also. There's definitely a lot of limitations and really close eye, I guess I would say, on subsidies and how they're worked. Specific subsidies are only ones allowed. Non-specific subsidies are not allowed. So you can't just say a farmer has 1,000 acres, so I'm going to give them a subsidy. No, they have to be a farmer for wheat or corn and very specific on how it's where it's going and how it's grown and what type of even what type of corn seed is even being planted there, or wheat seed and barley seed and things like that. So the subsidies for farming, and actually any subsidy, is very, very specific. I was actually quite surprised how specific they were. I live in South Dakota, and so a lot of times when you hear people talk about farmers' subsidies, they're really generalized, like, oh, those farmers get all these subsidies, that's why they're farming, or they're these rich farmers. But it's actually a detailed plan. So some prohibited subsidies are banned under all conditions. Exported subsidies and imported substitution. Exported subsidy is made available to domestic firms upon the export of their products and are made contingent on export performance. So example of this would be might be to include a grant or a tax credit to cover the cost of transportation of goods. Import subsidy is a government subsidy whose payment is contingent on a recipient using or purchasing domestically made goods over imported goods. So we can sometimes get a subsidy for using domestic goods instead of using imported goods. So that's a good thing too. We want to support our home country. So what are farming subsidies? Agricultural farming subsidy is actually a governmental subsidy that is paid farmers and agribusinesses to supplement their income, manage the supply of agriculture commodities, and influence the cost and supply of such commodities. You know, if there's a drought one year, say in the Midwest, where a lot of corn and wheat are grown, the price of goods could go skyrocketing, and that really influences everyone in the United States. So with the government providing a subsidy to these farmers, they keep the costs down, so we don't see a huge influx on, say, cereal or bread or some of the staples that we use. Without this subsidy, we would definitely see our grocery bills would be very unpredictable. They would be like the weather. So again, I'm kind of taking this more into South Dakota because that's where I'm from, and I'm a little more comfortable with that, and it was a little more interesting for me just to read about that. But I was shocked, though, also to see that $12.4 billion went to subsidies to farmers from 1994 to 2014. About 26% of farmers in South Dakota do not collects a subsidy. So that says about 3/4 of our farmers in South Dakota collect a subsidy, and I was pretty surprised by that. And I'm actually very conservative on my political views, so I don't really care for a lot of handouts, and I feel like every able-bodied person should work, and I don't necessarily agree with a lot of these things. But I don't so it was hard for me to say that I would agree with these subsidies because my initial knee-jerk reaction was absolutely I don't agree with them. But the more I looked at it big picture, the more I realized how important farming is. So why do we have them? I looked at, instead of looking like, nope, nobody else gets these farming subsidies, farmers get a lot of money from these subsidies, I actually looked at why. And really, one of it is the control of the weather. So if I don't want to pay $25 for a box of cereal in the morning because we've had horrible farming weather for the last 6 years, subsidies are probably a very important thing. The other part is importing and exporting. We don't want to import all of our goods. I've been to Cayman Islands and some other islands, and the food cost is just so expensive down there because they don't grow any of their own food. They have to import everything. And here in the United States, we're actually able to export some of our goods. If we have a surplus of corn or wheat or barley and some of those type of items or oranges. And so I think that's a great thing to have, be able to do. We don't want to be reliant on another country for everything. I mean, what would the United States look like if we didn't grow our own food? And Dreyer 2003 did a great study on this of what would we look like if we didn't grow our own food. We would be absolutely under the control of whatever country we were importing from. We're on the mercy of them. An example I like to use is the Grand Cayman Islands. They import a lot of their food. They fall under Great Britain, and so they get a lot of their food from them. Matter of fact, Queen Elizabeth is on their money, and they're absolutely under their control and their dictatorship because of that. And they may not seem like that as far as their written rules and laws, but they follow whoever they're getting their food from because they can't not have food being imported there. They need to be a priority, but they also pay a very high price for it. Dreyer also goes in to explain the expense of farming. Farmers, it's just not like it was 50 years ago to run a farm. Oil prices, they're so reliant on oil prices because of all the farm equipment that they run, and also what the economy of other countries look like because we do export. And I know a lot of businesses are that same way, but if Ford shut down, there's more than one Ford car company that we could go for. But if farming shut down, that's it. They grow our food. That's our staple. That's how we live. That's how we survive. And the appeal to keep farmers farming. Farmers don't make a lot of money. You're probably never going to be a millionaire farming in Miller, South Dakota. But we need those farmers more than they need us. So I do think it's really critical that we give some type of incentive for our younger generation to keep the farm going, to stay on the farm, and to enjoy that farm life because we really truly need them. And of course, I would be absolutely off base if I didn't refer to the YouTube video of God Made a Farmer by Paul Harvey. I think after watching that, we all understand why we need farming and how hard they do work for us. And if we didn't have farmers, what would we be? We'd be reliant completely on another country. And instead of talking about oil prices, we'd be probably talking about corn and wheat prices all over. And in the Midwest, we do talk about those prices, and we talk about calf prices and things like that other places in the United States probably don't talk about as much. But it could be very detrimental to our growth and our survival as a country. So Dyer is actually who I went to on most of these. I felt like the writing there was pretty amazing and gave me definitely a different outlook. As like I said, my knee-jerk reaction is I'm very conservative and I don't believe in subsidies, but in this case, I would definitely support them.